Everyone, and welcome to the lecture on grouping objects with functions and index. Let's start by looking at the people names data frame that we created in the previous lecture. We see that this data frame has 5 rows and 5 columns. Let's say we want to group our data frame with the lengths of each of these names. So for instance, the length of Joe is 3, James is 5, Tim is 3, Lynn is 3, and Hector is 6. So one such function is called the length function. So we'll try to group our data frame by using the lengths of these names. So the lengths will be 3, 5, and 6. And once we do that, we can calculate, for instance, the sum on that group by object. Let's do that. So we have our people names data frame, and then we'll call the group by method, and then group our data frame using the length of these names. Okay, we see that this object is a data frame group by object, and then if we save this in a variable called, let's say, name length. So here length is a function. So if we do the same thing, if we call our name length object, we see that it's a group by object. Now we can call, for instance, the min method on our object. So in this case, we'll get 3 rows since we are grouping it by length. So 1 for 3, the second row for 5, and the last row for 6, which is the length of the names. 3, 5, 6. There we have the means for each of the columns. Similarly, we can call the sum function on it. So name length, that's sum, and we get 3 rows and the sum of the values for A, B, C, D, E. We can also call the count method on our group by object, count, and we get the count for each row. So this is the length of the name, 3, 5, 6. Good. Next, let's see how we can group objects by using index. Let's create a multi-level indexed data frame, and we save it in a variable, let's say data frame 1, and we'll use the multi-level index method that Panda has. Don't worry about how to create this. I'm just going to use the multi-level index method to create a multi-level indexed data frame. So pd.multi-index, then we'll use the from array method, and then we'll pass a list of some alphabets. Let's pass A, and a couple of B's, B, B. Let's pass another list containing the numbers 2, 4, 6, let's say 2 and 4. And then for names we can use, so this will be names of our columns. Let's say alphabet, and then our second column will be numbers. Okay, the rectangular bracket should be there, and this one is extra. So we'll create our data frame from this And I think it will make more sense if I rename this to columns, since I'll be using that as columns when I create from array. This should be from arrays. Okay. So we'll use this and pass it as column name to create our data frame. Then let's save our data frame in a variable called data frame 1. So pd.data frame. Then let's use NumPy's random.randn method, and we'll create a 4x5 data frame. And for columns, we'll pass the columns name that we just created. Okay, that looks good. Let's run it. If we call our data frame 1 object, we have a multi-level indexed data frame. So we have 2 levels of columns, outer and inner, so alphabet and then number. So what we'll do is we'll group our data frame by using this index alphabet. We can do that. Let's see how to do that. So we have our data frame 1 object, and we'll call the group by method on it. And for this, we'll pass level as alphabet. So we'll group our data frame using the alphabet level of the column. So we use the argument level, and we want to group it along the y-axis. So we'll pass the argument axis and set it to be equal to 1. So if we run this, we'll see that it's a group by object, and we can save it in some variable. Let's say group index, and now we can call methods on our group index object. For instance, we can call the count method, and we'll get a count of the columns we have for A and B. And we can call other methods. Let's say group index dot sum. We have the sum. We can call yet other methods. Let's say mean, and we get that. So this is how we can do grouping objects by using index. So one thing to note is that while we are grouping an object using index, we use the parameter or argument level, and then we set that to be equal to name of that index. In this case, it's alphabet, so we passed alphabet as the name for our level. Okay, to summarize, in this lecture we saw how we can group objects using functions and index. So we created a data frame, people names data frame, and we used the length of each name for grouping the data frame. For that, we used the length function and passed it in our group by object. And once we have that aggregate, we can call methods like mean, sum, or count. And then we saw how we can group objects using index. We created a data frame with 2 levels of column index, and then we passed one of the column index as a level to group our data frame. And once we have that group by object, we can call various methods like count and sum. Thank you, everyone.